So OnePlus has just launched two fresh new flagship smartphones. You've got the Billy Big Bollocks OnePlus 9 Pro, and then you've got the standard vanilla OnePlus 9, which scales back some of the tech to deliver at a more affordable asking price. So I'm going to whip the OnePlus 9 5G, of course, because you've got to add 5G to the end of every smartphone name right now, out of its big red box, which isn't at all phallic, and take you on a full-on tour of the hardware and the software ahead of my in-depth review. And for more on the latest, greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Absolutely love this box. So inside the box you've got, of course, a OnePlus 9. You've got the usual quick start guide shenanigans, and of course the obligatory welcome letter with the old SIM tool stuck in there. So let's see what Mr. Pete has to say this time around. It basically boils down to congratulations on buying a OnePlus phone instead of being one of those iPhone twats. You also get, oh goody goody, a condom case, and it's your typical Rubber Johnny protective cover with a nice bit of never settle action on it as well. And you've got your big ass PSU as well, good bit of Warp Charge 65T support. And last up, of course, the usual extremely red Type-C to Type-C USB cable. So that's what you get in the box, and butter my beans, was that exciting? And now it's time to actually check out the phone. So here is the vanilla OnePlus 9, and it's pretty standard OnePlus design, as you can see there from a quick glance. You've got Gorilla Glass front and back as well, and you've actually got a polymer frame separating the two. A fiberglass infused polymer frame to be absolutely precise. And the OnePlus 9 is a little bit more compact than the Pro version. It's a 6.55-inch device. Got the camera chassis jutting out ever so slightly with that Hasselblad branding, because that's one of the big headlines for the OnePlus 9 series, is OnePlus has teamed up with Hasselblad for the next 3 years to help it fine-tune the camera tech. Now, if you decide you fancy a bit of OnePlus 9 action, you then got a choice of 3 different models just to complicate things a bit. You've got the blue and the black base models, which come with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. Otherwise, you can upgrade to this here Winter Mist version, which is 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. And I do quite like the color option here on the Winter Mist. It's basically a very subtle purple hue. And hopefully you can make out there, it is actually kind of a frosted finish up at the top, almost a matte style finish, and then down at the bottom it turns fully glossy. Yeah, gotta say, first impressions, I really do like it, but it is a bit unfortunate that the glossy bit is here at the bottom where you're actually handling the smartphone, so all of your hand grease and general scum is gonna leave a bit of an impression there. They really should have swapped it around so the frosted was at the bottom, glossy was at the top. And also in the pre-launch specs there was no mention of an official IP rating for the OnePlus 9, so we've got to assume, unlike the OnePlus 9 Pro, it does not have IP rated water and dust resistance. Of course, that doesn't mean that the OnePlus 9 isn't at all water resistant. I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine if it gets a bit of a splashing, but yeah, I'd be careful with it. And no surprises with the rest of the design. The alert slider is back in action again after being culled for the cheaper OnePlus Nord handsets. And once again, sadly, there is absolutely bugger all headphone jack action. Okay, so let's crack on with the good stuff. Let's get the OnePlus 9 all set up and then take a proper full-on tour the rest of the hardware and software. And when you come to stick your SIM card into the OnePlus 9, if I can just actually get the tray out of there, you'll notice there's a double-sided SIM tray, so you can fit 2 SIMs in there at the same time, but there's no space as usual for a micro SD memory card. All right, now, so the OnePlus 9 is all set up and ready for action. And on the software front, it's basically the same story on the standard OnePlus 9 as it is on the Pro. You've got the latest Android 11 OS with, of course, OnePlus's OxygenOS slathered on top. So I really like the stock Android vibe that you get from OxygenOS. You know, you got all your standard Android features like the good old apps tray. You know, you got your dark mode and gesture navigations, all of that good stuff on there by default. But then, of course, you've got those bonus OxygenOS bits like the shelf, which is, of course, has been a stalwart of the OxygenOS for quite some time, although now it's dragged down from the top like so. You can go into the home settings and you can actually change that so it is your notifications panel by default instead, which I do prefer. I like the shelf, but I do prefer to be able to quickly access that notifications panel because the OnePlus 9, a bit more compact than the Pro, but it's still a big bugger. You've got some OnePlus apps on here as well to quickly migrate your stuff from your old smartphone. You've got quick access to the community forums. You've got the OnePlus clock, of course. And customizing a OnePlus smartphone is a bit easier than a stock Android handset because you've got the dedicated customization section, which allows you to, for instance, just quickly change up the wallpaper. You've got the usual jazzy selection there. You can also create your own wallpapers based on your gorgeous, or in my case, gormless mug. Me, though, I prefer my geeky anime efforts. I'm going to stick with that. There's plenty of other stuff you can play around with in the customization section as well, including that ambient display, of course, lots of different options there. Still got that sexy bit of edge lighting for when your notifications stroll in as well. And you can mess around with the icons, the fonts, all of that good stuff. So let's check out that screen, and what you got here on the OnePlus 9 is a 6.55-inch AMOLED display. It's actually perfectly flat, which will definitely impress the gamers among you, unlike the slightly curved effort on the Pro. You've got a full HD Plus resolution here, sadly not Quad HD Plus like some other premium smartphones, so you don't get that finer detail when you are, watching an Ultra HD movie or anything like that. But still, very nice visuals indeed. You've got HDR10 Plus support, so you can get that nice, sharp contrast, natural-looking colors on the go in HDR content from the likes of Netflix. The OnePlus 9's display is set to the vivid mode by default. You can alter that in the settings if you want, but frankly, I really like the vivid mode, especially if you're watching a bit of anime, some Disney, something like that. Those visuals will just slap you right in the chops. Oh, yeah, love it. But yeah, if you want to, you can stick the OnePlus 9 screen on more natural colors, otherwise dive into advanced. You've got a proper sRGB setting in there, which is handy if you're going to be editing pics on the fly. You've got DP3 as well. And you've got frickin' loads of other settings in the display menu as well, like too many to be perfectly frank with you, and a lot of them seem to do the same things. You've got comfort tone, which adjusts the temperature of the screen based on your ambient environment, but then you've also got like the reading mode, the vision comfort mode. Heading into the advanced section, you can play around with the refresh rate, which as you can see there is set to 120 Hz by default, but you can scale that back down to 60 Hz if you'd rather favour the battery life. Sadly, there's no dynamic refresh rate here on the standard OnePlus 9, so it can't automatically buffer between the two. And on the top brightness, no issues with visibility whatsoever. You top off at over 1000 nits. I believe OnePlus said it was 1100 on its maximum level, so outdoor visibility and everything, not an issue. As for audio, well, the OnePlus 9 once again has a stereo speaker setup just like that Pro model. Let's bump up the volume, see if it's actually any good. This week included the frankly unwarranted return of the dreaded budgie smuggler, the one thing that makes me kind of glad I can't actually go on a holiday right now. So that's not bad at all, and top volume certainly nice and punchy and powerful. The clarity isn't, fantastic or anything, but it'll be absolutely fine just for kicking back with some Netflix or whatever. It is a damn shame you don't get a headphone jack again, like most other premium smartphones these days, apart from, the likes of the Sony's. But you do have Bluetooth 5.2 support on here. All of the usual audio smarts, including a good bit of LDAC action. You got some Dolby Atmos fine tuning as well, so I can just tweak the audio to match whatever you're up to. And then there's the performance, and the OnePlus 9 is powered by the Snapdragon 888 chipset, Qualcomm's Billy Big Bollocks super top-end smartphone platform, and that is backed by either 8 or 12 gigs of DDR5 RAM. This, of course, being the missed version, is the 12 giga. So certainly everyday performance is nice and nippy. OxygenOS is apparently more resource efficient now, so you don't have so many apps closing in the background, and certainly gamers will be happy with this as well. Genshin Impact played on those high detail settings at the 60 FPS level, and there's the occasional little judder in frame rate when things get a little bit hectic, because this is a really demanding game, but overall very playable. The OnePlus 9 is definitely starting to get a little bit toasty at the back end after gaming for about sort of 20-30 minutes on Genshin Impact, but nothing too troublesome, and certainly doesn't seem to be throttling the performance, which is the main thing. You do have a bigger than ever vapor chamber stashed inside the OnePlus 9 now, just to help with the cooling aspect. You've also got the usual graphite layers and all of that good stuff. Let's get a bit of a move on. And before I forget, you've got the usual OnePlus gaming features as well. These have actually been revamped a bit for the 9 series. Instead of a Fanatic mode, you've now got the Pro gaming mode, but it's essentially the same thing. It will block your notifications, make sure all the resources are dedicated to your game. Just cancel out that second SIM if you've got one in there. Because the OnePlus 9 has that Snapdragon 888 stuffed inside, that means you automatically get 5G support, courtesy of the built-in X60 modem. You've also got Wi-Fi 6 support as well, so absolutely fine on the networking side of things. Now moving on to the battery, and the OnePlus 9 packs a 4500 milliamp cell, should hopefully keep you going all day long, even with plenty of use. And you do have 65 watt wired charging as well, that Warp Charge 65T support. So that should get you powered back up again in about half an hour or so, which is pretty damn impressive stuff. And as for wireless charging, yes, it's supported here on the OnePlus 9. Not incredibly nippy though, it's 15 watts, that's 1.5. So let's finish up with a squint at the triple lens rear camera slapped on the arse end of the OnePlus 9. And as I mentioned back at the start of the video, OnePlus has entered a partnership with Hasselblad, the Swedish optics expert. So the primary lens is different to the OnePlus 9 Pro. Here on the OnePlus 9 you get this Sony IMX689 primary sensor. It's a 48 megapixel shooter, and there's no optical image stabilization built in. The actual camera UI remains the same on the OnePlus 9 though. You will get 12 megapixel photos by default, but you can bump up to that that maximum 48 megapixel resolution by going into the camera settings and selecting high res. It's only really recommended if you've got a very well lit scene, however. At any point you can swap to the 50 megapixel ultra wide angle lens with a quick tap like so. This uses Sony's IMX766 sensor, and you get the anti-distortion tech just to help when you shoot a photo, prevent you from getting that weird warping around the edges which you often get with ultra wide angle lenses. As for the third and final lens on the OnePlus 9, sadly it's not a telephoto shooter, so you've just got 2x digital zoom. What you get is a 2 megapixel monochrome lens. As for your bonus camera modes, you get all the standard stuff, including of course a bit of portrait mode to have your subject stand out, and Hasselblad has apparently fine-tuned the Pro mode just to offer accurate, really natural looking colours, which of course I will be fully testing for my in-depth OnePlus 9 review. And while you do shoot in JPEG by default using this mode, you can just give that little tappy tap and start shooting in 12-bit RAW instead if you want to edit on the fly. You've also got the likes of Nightscape 2.0 to really brighten up those low light shots, and then of course a bit of video action. And with the OnePlus 9, it's in full HD mode by default, but you can shoot 4K footage at either 30 or 60 frames per second. Otherwise you can bump all the way up to 8K level if you want some really sharp looking home movies. And you've got HDR smarts on there as well, but as long as you're shooting at full HD at 30 FPS. And then last up, if we flip to the 16 megapixel selfie cam, that's using Sony's IMX471 sensor, and I'm sure that I will be able to capture some great looking snaps. Oh god, maybe not. And there you have it in a nutshell, the OnePlus 9 Vanilla Edition. So as you can see, quite a few bits have been scaled back from the OnePlus 9 Pro, but the OnePlus 9 should still prove strong competition for the likes of Samsung's Galaxy S20 Fan Edition with that fresh Snapdragon 888 chipset in there. Some nice solid performance. Hopefully the battery life and the camera tech will work out well as well, but I'll be fully testing it out for my in-depth reviews, so stay tuned for that. For now, what I want to know is, what do you guys reckon? Are you tempted by the OnePlus 9, or maybe more swayed by the OnePlus 9 Pro, which I've also unboxed? Go check that out. I will be doing a full side-by-side comparison of the two smartphones as well, so you can see exactly what the differences are and work out which one might be best for you if you're going to grab yourself a OnePlus 9 handset. Please do poke, subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest greatest tech, and have yourselves a fantastic rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.